Jack Bentley was born on March 8, 1895, into a prosperous Quaker family on a farm in Sandy Spring, Maryland. His great-grandfather, Caleb Bentley, one of the area's original Quaker settlers, served as postmaster of the nearby town of Brookville, and during the War of 1812, when the British invaded Washington, he sheltered President James Madison for a night. Jack's father, John Caleb Bentley, was a bank president, while his mother, Cornelia Hallowell Bentley, was the daughter of another prominent Sandy Spring family. In addition to Jack, their only son, John and Cornelia also had 4 daughters: Eliza, Edith, Florence, and Mildred. Jack Bentley is best known for his storied career in professional baseball, pitching for the New York Giants against the Washington Senators in the 1924 World Series, one of the most memorable in baseball history. His passion for baseball started when he was given a ball and taught to throw at age 3. By the time he was 10, he was playing on adult teams, and at age 13, he was a pitcher and lead slugger on Sandy Springs Sherwood High School first uniform baseball team. In September 1911, the 16-year-old Bentley left Sandy Spring for the first time, enrolling in the George School in Newtown, Pennsylvania, a Quaker coeducational boarding and day school. At age 18, he was given a chance to try out as pitcher for the Washington Senators and immediately after was offered a contract. Before accepting, Jack went home to discuss it with his parents. Initially, they were adamantly opposed since they considered baseball a public spectacle, something Quakers were supposed to avoid. Eventually, however, after Jack promised not to drink or gamble, they relented, and Bentley joined the Senators, making his first start on September 6, 1913. Later that fall, Jack lost his father to a lengthy battle with cancer. In his will, he bequeathed their 125-acre farm to his only son. After every baseball season, Jack would return home to work the farm. In January 1917, Bentley was traded to Jack Dunn's Baltimore Orioles, and in July of the same year he was drafted by the military. It was thought that he would claim exemption from the military service as a conscientious objector due to his religious faith, and yet he chose to enlist in the Army to serve his country in World War I. In 1962, he told an interviewer, "Some of the members of our faith thought I was justified in my conduct. Others did not. But I think I was. That was the turning point in my life." In March 1918, Private Bentley was stationed at Camp Meade, Maryland. Shortly thereafter, he was deployed to France with the 313th Infantry, known as the Boys of Baltimore and Eastern Shore. Here are the letters he sent home depicting his experience during his 19 months of service in World War I. July 9th, 1918. Dearest Mother, safe and well. I guess the 2 things that are most of interest. Wonderful things to tell about after I return. Have not been at all sick. Very few men have. Things were just as I expected them to be. There are 5 of us in this room, and we are on duty 6 hours. Kindly give my love to Elsa and anyone else who would appreciate same. Weather is fine. Please let my friend Anna Bancroft know my address, and please write soon. Have seen 2 whales and also porpoises. I think of you all lots, but wish I was back again. Must close, please write. With lots of love, thine, Jack. July 22nd, 1918. Somewhere in France. Dearest Mother, landed in France last Monday and now I'm located in a small town well across France. Just 14 days from the time I left Camp Meade, a record trip. I am well and very happy as happy can be so far from home. I'm living by myself in the home of a very lovely French lady, and I'm beginning to pick up enough French to be able to get my needs and say, how do you do, I thank you, etc. We just finished billeting the men, which means that we put a dozen or more in a cellar, 100 in a barn with the band, who, by the way, gave the townspeople a concert today, the first music they had had in 4 years. They went wild over it. We traveled 4 days on a train. 6 of us in a compartment sat up to sleep. The men, 40 in a boxcar, suffered very much. Half could lay down at a time to sleep, then the other half had a chance. But they stood it like men, and I was proud of them. At one of our stops, we lined the men up for their coffee, and as I stooped inside the shack, who should I spy but Alice Miller in her lovely Red Cross costume. She was dear, and I had a very pleasant talk with her. We saw no submarines at all, although we picked up a lifeboat with 20 people in it. I can't describe my feelings as we entered the harbor, and as it was very misty, we were close up when we first sighted land. The beautiful French landscape that I will tell you all about on my return. Visiting for a few hours one of the oldest towns in France, said to be the oldest, Brest. I went to a hotel belonging to the YMCA. Who should I see but Tom Duvant, who had been shipwrecked, so he told me. He looked well and happy, and I was so glad to see him. I was put in charge of all the baggage and spent 3 days and 3 nights getting it. I am not going to gloat over my hardship, but they were many. People had told me about France, but I did not know that people could be so lovable and energetic as these people are. Their loyalty is beautiful. They think the Americans are wonderful. They say they can do no wrong. May they continue to think so. I must say wine is pretty generally used here. In fact, they think you queer if you don't use it. And it is very mild stuff. We had our first casualty, which was the result of a truck running into our column at night. 2 men killed and 4 injured. I have seen thousands of German prisoners. There being lots here, 9,000 I was told. We saw numerous hospital trains, and they said the Americans take no prisoners. They illustrate this by imitating a thrust with a bayonet and cutting the throat. They said we had brave hearts and a clean brain. I could write lots more, but must close. Love to thee, dearest mother, thine, Jack. August 1st, 1918. Dearest Mother, I am now in a different town and in the prettiest valley I have ever seen. I think one can see for 10 to 15 miles in any direction. We march up this valley 10 miles every day, and we are now getting up at 5 a.m. It's pretty tough going, indeed, but As always, I am satisfied and, well, also happy. I'll try to paint a picture of what I saw coming in last night. An old man coming down one of these beautiful white roads, with trees every 20 feet from town to town, leading a beautiful flock of sheep, with here and there a large goat looking over the heads of the sheep. Running around the flock of sheep steadily was a pair of sheepdogs, a muddly color. All the time I saw them, the process continued, just one continual round of pleasure for those two dogs. As we arrived at our billets, I saw the old man lift his horn and blow. Immediately, some 6 or 8 sheep darted into a house, and so on until he had pretty well divided the sheep from the goats. Oh, that was pretty! It is today the 1st of August, and also today for thee is perhaps August 20 or 15th. But just the same, whether we are 3,000 miles or more apart, we have each other's love, and that counts for so much. This morning at 5 a.m., I was coming back from reveille. I saw a plane going over. It was pretty, so early in the morning. They are common here, though. It will be wonderful when some letters begin to come. Okay? But when the old war is over, then will be the happy days, and I for a hunt somewhere sometime. Please tell me in thy letters as many of the little details about the stock. Ask the men about this or that and how my dogs are, also the steer. However, thee is more than thoughtful about that. There have been 3 horses killed here since our arrival, and many are running wild about here, injuring the peasants' crops. We see men hunting them among the wheat, which is still standing. Tell Rob they sure know how to use the cradle here. I have never seen such old people in my life as you see here. There are many, and they all work. I see an old woman watching a steer every day I go out. She must be 90 years old. It is hot here today, as hot as I've ever felt. We work Saturdays as well as Wednesdays here, and by the end of the week we will have completed 90 miles of marching. My feet are tired. My platoon is beginning to show signs of affections for me, which helps lots. They sing Heaven, Hell, or Broadway by Christmas, meaning they will get killed, win the war, and go back home. Some go to heaven, etc. They are a fine bunch of men, 58, and I instruct them all day long. My experience yesterday was funny and typifies the custom of the people. I went to a house here and hired a bath. I saw a sign on the outside, baths, 1 franc. So on going in, I was taken into a little room and given towel and soap. After she left, I started to undress and had gotten pretty well lathered all over when the door opened up and in walked my hostess, busying herself with work and telling me to use her soap instead of my own. It seems that these people are not very particular in that regard. The latrines here are right out on the street and very public indeed, in fact. I never saw anything like them. But I must close now and give my love to all at home, and let's pray for the old war to be over soon. Thine, Jack. August 5th, 1918. Dearest Mother, still in billets, but we're spoiling for a fight, and I have the best platoon in the regiment. Every one of my 58 men is for use, and it has took a month of careful work, but they show that they are. and I am happy. They would go to their death for me, and it is a grave responsibility. It's funny how you are with people a long time and suddenly find out they are somebody you are closely connected with. A lieutenant shoemaker here knows Sandy Spring and all that goes with it. I haven't heard from you yet. It's been just 1 month since I left. Seems long. I am able to carry on quite a conversation in French now. The people help you lots, and every day you pick up some few words. I am writing by candlelight and getting ready to go to bed. I'm in bed by 9 p.m. or 21 o'clock. I get up at 5 a.m., and I have about an hour to do as I like during the day. I have already read upwards of 1,000 letters, and some of them are corkers, perfect screams. I am learning lots every day. Today I laid out a system of trenches, and day after tomorrow the regiment will storm them. The people here think our band is wonderful. It is the finest. One old codger, about 120 years old, is the town crier. He goes from place to place with a drum, and after beating on it for a few minutes, announces that Madame le House has lost a lamb. It's great. Every few houses there are 3 or 4 soldiers billeted, and the customary practice is a couple of them out front with a French girl teaching them French with many gesticulations, shrugs, and nods. It rains here without much warning, and you have many weddings that seem unnecessary. Please give my love to Springland and Roxland, also Elborn, Mildred's, and every one of my relatives. Also one little girl thee knows. Oh, doctor. I am glad to be able to report the excellent record of America's troop morally in this country. Everyone is proud of the clean young men that the USA has sent over, and their morals are unequaled by any army that ever followed their leader. I know this is true. Our meals have improved. We had a bully dinner today. I'm thinner, but that's better, as I was too fat when I left Camp Meade. Hoping that I will hear before long, I am as ever thine lovingly, Jack. Awful writing matter, but I am pretty hurried these days, and thy love for me excuses many things. August 18th, 1918. Dearest Mother, when thee receives this, the fall will have started. Just think of that. And it won't be long before I will have been in the Army for 1 year. I have no complaints to offer, only I would like to get a hold of the man who is responsible for the continuance of this most awful tragedy and punch him right good. Sometimes it almost gets my goat, but I never have lost the old smile yet. I hope I can keep it. Last night I went wild boar hunting and had no luck whatever. Just as I finished making the rounds, the go-arounds and tracks, I heard a noise, and on looking around, I beheld a letter. My second one in 45 days. I'd leapt for it, and sure enough, it was from thee, telling of thy birthday and of the picture that you had taken of Carl, and also that thee knew I had gotten over safely. That reminds me, the sub that was on the lookout for us gave herself up, as she was told not to return to Germany without her prize. So she came into a French port and gave up. Well, it was lovely to hear from thee. It is such a relief to hear that the wheat is all saved, and that means the farm will carry along very well until later. There is one thing I am right worried about, namely the steers, the sale of them, and the purchase of more for next year. Put in an order for 12 from Mr. Jones, Mother, and also find someone who will sell my fat steers too. Anytime you are really in need of money, why, sell a cow. But preferable a fresh one. Remember me to the men, and tell them I am glad the harvest was put in such fine shape. August 22nd, 1918. Dearest Mother, just a line to let thee know that I am well and happy. There isn't much to tell right now, but I am getting along okay and expect to continue in the same vein. Our work is progressing very well, and when thee gets this, I will have had my first shake at the war game and will not be able to write for 3 weeks. So don't be alarmed. I am only doing my bit, as bitter as it seems at times. I am glad to be able to be of real service. September 1st, 1918. Dearest Mother, while I am sick today, it is nothing serious, and yet it makes me long for thee more than ever. I have always been able to take care of number one, but Mother is comfort that there is only one place to get it, and that is home. Thy last letter was so sweet, and please make them good and long, for I need them very much. We have been here 5 weeks now and no change in program, so we will welcome a change very much. Madame Lurhouse's husband returned from the front today, and such rejoicing. His coat was in shreds. It seems that a shrapnel shell burst near him and nearly put him on the bum. We had still another accident yesterday. A man was hit in the back with a fragment of a grenade. We have had some demonstrations of rockets lately. Very pretty. These are fired out of a gun, and some of them make the whole countryside as bright as day. It's very pretty work. Our pay came today, and I expect to send home $100 soon. I had $80 left from last payday. It's very cool here now, and getting up at 5 a.m. is bright or dark. And early this morning, Sunday, we were allowed to sleep a half hour later, and it seemed late at 5:30 a.m. All windows must be kept shut here on account of raids. My love to all, and let Mr. Snowden send a note in thy next letter. Here's hoping that la guerre finisse, and I'll see you all in a year or so. Love, Jack. From a dugout at nowhere on the front. Date, September 17th. Hour, 10:30 a.m. Number 11, via everywhere to the sweetest woman in the world, my mother. I am well and happy, although 4 shells burst very close to me last night and I was in a gas area, but the old nerve is okay. And although this sector is full of graveyards, I am still feeling fine. I have a horse to ride now, and I'm running a 40-car railroad, which work keeps me up all night, and I am in charge of quite a place here, 100 men and 100 horses being my share of this contest. I am sleeping in a very good dugout, and although shells come close, all is okay. I have seen several area battles. You hear these German airplanes at night all overhead, and they drop big bombs that look like this. This is about 18 inches long. And I had 5 hit mighty near me last night, in front, very near a platoon commander. Love, Jack. September 18, 1918. Dearest Mother, well, today is my first real good opportunity to write, and it's been a long time since I had a real talk with thee, so here goes. In the first place, a German plane took a picture of me yesterday, with a map spread out in front of me. It was black, and it didn't fly over 100 feet above ground. I was going through the trenches and was going to locate an isolated company that hadn't been receiving rations, when over she sailed with her engine cut off. Later that day, she hovered over us here, but at a great height. I guess there were over 100 shells fired by anti-aircraft guns. Later in the day, a certain machine gun company was coming up the road when along came this daredevil in his black plane. The machine gun company unlimbered their guns and opened fire. The plane fell. Oh, wasn't that great? Last night I led a pack train of 8 mules to the front line, and as we had unloaded rations, I heard a plane coming. Its intermittent hum told us that it was a Boche. It sailed over without doing anything but hum, and I could just see its little light. Now mind you, it was a bright moonlight. 2 more came along and they seemed to be echelon. Pretty soon, one came directly over us, and almost immediately things began to happen. I have heard lightning strike many times pretty close, but this had them all beat. 4 shells from his plane fell, and then to make matters worse, someone rang the gas alarm, and our own riflemen opened up and bullets started to hop all around us. I got home at my dugout at 1 a.m. and was glad that all of me came along. My only mistake was that I didn't lay down when I heard them guns. This morning I inspected a dugout made by the Germans. It was about 30 feet underground and about 200 yards long. A wonderful structure. The air wasn't bad in them at all. I have slept in most every kind of place since I left home. And here they are. Barracks, okay. Trains, okay. Decks of ships, okay. Holds of ships, fair. Billets and dugouts, pretty fair, except for the rats, and they speak French, so we don't worry much. We have had a good morning this morning. Cloudy, so the planes haven't hurt anyone. When about 5 o'clock, orders come that we move it again that night. Well, that is hard times. Every morning up at 5 and often 3 o'clock, as everything must be done early. Sometimes, as it happened the other day, after being ready at 4 o'clock, we wait till 7 before we start. But so it goes. It don't do for a man to object, for there is only one thing to do, and that is to obey orders. It teaches a man to change mind. We are to receive a special medal for the part we are playing, and we are earning it. An order came through a while ago that there would be no more promotions. So I will return home a first lieutenant, but I guess I will be just as welcome were I a captain. I was a company commander long enough to swell with ego. I have been thinking very often of Eliza, and often wonder whether there was serious danger of her being very ill. This woman produced some liquor a while ago, and it is called schnapps. We all agree that it was 90% alcohol. I have never tasted anything in my life equal to it. Well, I will close this letter, Mother. I think of thee every day, and when I'm tramping along the long, long trail a-winding, I think of home and long for the comfort of being where you don't have to move. I have slept in 14 different places in the last 20 days, and so I long for the day, however distant, when I can come back to thee and home. I would like Ellen to see this, and anyone else who is interested in the Yank. Love, Jack. We go on German soil tomorrow. October 28th, 1918. Dearest Mother, ha ha! Hip hip hooray! I am a first lieutenant and just as happy as a kid. And all last night, we hiked and hiked for 17 miles until at every momentary halt, the men would lay down in the road and ease the weight of the cruel packs. We are now in the city of Verdun, shells falling here every few minutes. A town of 30,000 persons evacuated, and believe me, my walk over the town was pitiful. Every house caved in or roof put on the fritz. I was particularly impressed with the beautiful cathedral which has been partly demolished. In one end is a shrine like this, marble pillars. It was fully as large as any I ever saw and still as beautiful. Of course, all the windows are broken. Many thanks for that letter which was so full of what I wanted to know. I feel deeply indebted for the splendid work that has kept the farm going. Believe me, that puts heart into a fella. My thanks also go to Edith for her lovely letters. Stanley Weatherald sends me a letter, and I am writing to him. Thanks for kindness. Thine, Jack. In a tumble-down shack. Dearest Mother, this is to be a letter with all I can write in it, and to all my friends that might care to hear it. I don't know if I am or not, but I believe that I am the first man from old faraway Sandy to go, quote, over the top. And I will tell as much as I can, but you can rest assured that that will not be half. After spending 2 weeks in the front line, in a comparatively quiet Verdun sector, we began to see big 6-inch cannons coming in, 8 horses or a tractor pulling them. You could see them sitting near the road camouflaged with chicken wire that was covered with green burlap, many shells in racks close by. For 2 or 3 weeks we watched them, and then one day we were taken out and laid around in the rain in reserve. I was touched on the shoulder and the colonel says, Mr. Bentley, you take your platoon and cut wire tonight, and tomorrow night we attack. You will divide your platoon into 16 teams of 3 men each and precede the infantry in attack. After you get through, advance with the infantry. I did, and this is how it happened. You see, I had over a mile of country that was wired. To cut it was some 200 yards of the awfulest tangle that a human being could devise. Each man was provided with a big pair of wire clippers, tremendous things, and I marched my platoon in single file and in silence a mile or more. And all that night we worked. But we lost every one of those fine wire cutters. However, I got in next night, and for 6 hours we heard 3,000 guns throw shells over our heads, and some counter-battery work shells came pretty fast, but I didn't feel it, nearly as much as I have felt before a ball game. So I walked from shell hole to shell hole, asked the men how their morale was, and cheered them up. Exactly at 5:30, we, quote, went over. We cut wire for 25 minutes, and all the time the shells were falling all around. Finally, we got through. I could see a column, single file, ahead and on the right. We kept going, very smoky and many shells hitting close to us. The first casualties I saw were 3 men tangled and twisted, looking up at the cold gray dawn. The first real resistance we met was a machine gun, but we didn't stop. This attack was in the woods. The further we went, the thicker they seemed to be. More and more machine guns and snipers. Major Langley shot through both legs. I advanced one more time and ran into a field alive with machine guns. Men were dropping, so I ordered my platoon into shell holes and threw hand grenades at the unpleasants, but I couldn't locate them. Pretty soon the rest of the support came up, and we went forward anyway. I saw Lieutenant Skester of the machine gun company set his gun right on top of the ground and battle those hidden devils. Pretty soon I saw 9 Germans rush out of a dugout and with hands over their head cry out, "Comrade!" Some of the boys shot at them, but we made them stop, and after searching them, sent them to the rear. One man handed a great raft of junk that I promptly threw away. That night we slept in a shell hole. I was advancing when I heard the bullets clacking. They were very close. Then I rolled into a hole with my platoon around me. When we went forward again, 3 Germans ran up to me crying, "Comrade, pardon!" That night we attacked a town. Billy Waters and I were together. The next day, Billy got his. Poor fellow. Always cheerful and a real true blue clean-cut man. I mean to write, Miss Waters. Major Putman shot through the head and Major Pepper killed. We keep going. I have many narrow escapes, but I keep going. At this time, I had slept 2 nights in the rain and cold, hadn't eaten or drank for a day and a half, but we had gained 2 miles. The next day we stormed Mount Faucon and took it. I sent 2 of my men back with 9 prisoners, 1 an officer on a litter. We slept in shell holes again. 8 of my men gone. Captain Riley killed. Captain Rupp killed. Also Captain Kilman, Jigasol, Lyot, Dubarry, and Dragton. Lieutenant Kriebel looked up to see if he could advance and got his. That day we attacked from M, and I was in support of the regiment and saw the other regiment in our brigade attack. It was pretty to see the lines go forward, then the tanks rolling along. Artillery fire then opened up, and this is what made us suffer most. This country was open, and they must have been able to see us, for their shells just dropped where we were. The wounded started to stream back. It would make this letter unpleasant to describe the horrors that I saw. However, this is war. You would hear the shell whistle, and then wonder whether it had your name on it or not. As I said before, I had many narrow escapes. Shells killed men within a few feet of me. 1 shell hit just 2 feet from me, and only my ears suffered. Good luck. November 22nd, 1918. Luxembourg. Dearest Mother, en route to the Rhine, and after 6 days marching, I am a bit footsore. I have really had the happiest time of my life as well as the hardest, as 2 of these days we did 20 miles, and after you have marched a few days at that rate, it gets hard. I am thin. My weight is about 170 pounds, but I am hard as nails, as oxen. 2 meals is the most we get a day. One of the red-letter days of my life was November 20th, when in a single day we passed through 3 different countries, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg. The people of Luxembourg are German, but very neutral. They are industrious and very clean, a great contrast from parts of France. Yesterday we passed the town of Luxembourg, a big place, and a really good reception was accorded the Americans. We didn't go through the town itself though, but some of our troops did. To have spent a day such as we had coming through Belgium was worth all the hardship I have spent for the past 80-odd days. The first town we struck was lit up for a fair. Trees even had been brought in and planted, ribbons and flags beaucoup, and a Belgian band with all kinds of phony instruments. The signs everywhere read, "Honor aux Allies, Honor aux Liberators, Germans, America, etc." Well, that was great. All the people on the street shouting all sorts of things. women with tears rolling down their faces, and they grasped the men by the hand, and Captain and I, marching to the head of the column, got beaucoup smiles, too. I could write a book about this trip I have had through France, and I know a good bit of the scenery, as I have marched a couple of 1,000 miles, and still going. I can't tell when I will get home, but when I do, I expect to tell the many interesting things that I am too tired to tell now. I am staying with Herr Haas, who has a brother in America, and she has given us a mess of potatoes, and I am feeling mighty fine. A woman in Luxembourg wouldn't come to the door. She said that if we tried to go all the way to the Rhine with flags flying and bands playing, that we would have another war. It is strange. In this country, the people all live in towns they naturally kick when they are destroyed, as there is no place to go. There are no towns. There are no homes. They have nothing but their eyes to cry with. Now, Mother, I am anxious to hear. This change that I have made that has made it impossible for me to receive any mail until thee gets my new address, 125th Infantry, APO 734. So please, tell me all that thee had written in the last month. Tell Robert that I will probably build a cornhouse and a pig pen when I return. I will need quite a lot of lumber for it, so he had better get started on some logs this winter. I should be writing things that would lighten thy load of responsibility. Instead, I am making it heavier. When I come home, I expect to see if I can make some money on the farm, at the same time provide more abundantly and live on the fat of the land, something these people do, and something we haven't been doing. It's absurd not to have an abundance of everything that can be raised, and also many other things. They tell me the Boche officers told the people a year ago that they couldn't win. The Boche is retreating in front of us. We keep about 5 hours in his rear. He has left a bad taste in these people's mouths, as he has commandeered everything he wishes. I have longed for a camera, as some of this scenery has been wonderful. Often you come over a hill and look down on a valley of 100 acres or more, with a couple of towns and with a beautiful winding road. I have cursed these winding roads this morning. Our column was going 3 different ways at once. I have seen as many as 50 German cannons lined up on the roads, trucks and all sorts of wagons and gun carts. Some of the forests of Luxembourg are wonders, and the stumps are cut so low that you can't see them. Beechwood predominated, with some fir. I am now learning to speak German, and I find that good morning is the same, only they learn to say it with their mouths full of mush. I want thee to know that you hear more within a column of squads than in any theater in the world. $4 a pound for butter, $2.30 for a dozen eggs. And yet they say these times are hard in the States. Many things are high. Last night a woman told me that she had to pay 300 marks for a pair of shoes. The man who owns this place just told our interpreter that last night a German officer just came and put his horse in his stable without any permission from him, and he claims that he ran them out. He says all the people of Luxembourg are pro-Ally. He just said that when the Germans heard that the Americans were coming in, they said, now we are fighting the world and the rich Americans. We will get Paris and London and then all of rich America. Ha! Ha! November 28, 1918. Dearest Mother, Thanksgiving Day, and believe me, I think it is the best one I have ever had. I have a lot to be thankful for. First, I am alive. Second, I just had a nice dinner. And third, I have a lovely mother and home over in Little Maryland, the best of the three. I just took a walk over to Consdorf and bought 600 francs worth of, quote, Y goods and brought it back for the men, and soon had the money back. This is the best that I could do for the men. Chocolate, soup, cakes, and cigarettes. Yesterday I went to Luxembourg and found a wide-awake, beautiful town, with pretty girls and the town bedecked with flags. I saw wonderful buildings, and some pretty ones too. The stone arch, of course, is the most wonderful thing there. This is 200 feet high and 280 feet across. We had a lot of fun pricing things. Candy, $4 a pound. I didn't buy much. The German money is decreasing. The value a few days ago was 24 cents. Now a mark is 17 cents, the same as a franc. The Germans have nearly bankrupted this country. December 11th, 1918. Dearest Mother, it has been some time since I last wrote you all, and since that time I have walked and walked 260 kilometers or 200 miles. I have hiked, and it just took us 14 days slow gait, but we got here okay, and are now overlooking the Rhine, a truly pretty river, and we are in a pretty town just north of Koblenz called Andernach. The reception was a quiet one, and the people didn't know just what was coming, and stood around fearing that something awful was going to be pulled off. The places I stayed, the women cooked for us, and in some cases they didn't want to do it much, but they knew that they had to. The Rhine here is about 200 yards wide, and boats of considerable size navigate up and down. I am living in a priest's home who spoke English. He is very interesting, and I enjoy hearing him talk. It was my lot to be on guard tonight, and I have to sit up all night. An old German school teacher told me that Germany had 11 million men at the beginning of the war, and 3 million killed. Well, Mother, this is an awful letter, but I am awful tired. But we'll feel better soon, as we can't go much further. But Lord, I wish I had a chance to hear from you soon. I will close with Love, Jack. Urbach, Germany, December 17th, 1918. My dearest Mother, owing to the lack of paper, I'm doubling up this note to one of Elsa's, so don't feel hurt. But rather than not writing at all, I'm going to send this home. Imagine how I feel, Mother, with not much chance of hearing from thee for at least another month. And the last information I had was that Elsa had been operated on, and I can't but help worry about her. I have my little picture yet of Eliza, Mildred, Robert, and Charlie. Thee and Father and I carried them through every battle and on our 220-mile hike. Things on the place that I would so love to know about. Whether the hogs have been killed, if they were good, what is the condition of money matters? Sometimes I can't see how I can help from being $1,000 in debt with $500 due thee, also $125 that thee loaned me, and wages. Gee, it gets my goat. December 22nd. Dearest Mother, I am going to send this along for two very good reasons. The first one, and by the way, I had trouble deciding which was first, is that I hear that we will probably leave Germany about 6 weeks later. If we do that, should get me home in March. The second is that today I shot a deer, and now Christmas will be Christmas, and the officers are all happy as venison steak is a rare treat. I made a good shot on this young buck and shot him at 150 yards through a pine forest with an army rifle, 30-30. Everyone was trying to get one, and thine truly was the boy that brought home the bacon. Naturally, everyone is happy tonight. This hunt was really on the sly, and the captain said to me, after sending the company to church, let's go out and see if we can get a shot at a deer. So out we went, and we hadn't gone far before we jumped to. The captain shot at one and missed. So going further, I saw a heavy pine forest ahead and went into it. I saw way ahead the shape of a deer between numerous trees. So dropping to one knee, I fixed at his shoulder. He jumped and ran, and I said, well, I missed him. But I decided to go and look at his tracks. When I came to the place, instead of tracks, I found a stream of blood. And pretty soon he was hanging in a tree with Bill Peacock, our striker, opening him up. Oh, it was a great day, and he now lies cut up in the kitchen meat box for the officers' mess Christmas. December 27th, 1918. Dearest Mother, Christmas was Christmas after all, and simply because by some chance I got a letter from thee, 2 of them, and they contained a long one from Elsa, and how I read them, not having had any mail at all since November 11th, or nearly 2 months. Thee can appreciate how they felt. The fact that Elsa was safely through her dangerous operation was glad and glorious news, and in fact, all of it was good, except some of the trouble these spoke of. Christmas for me was spent quietly and with fine old Captain Hyman and Lieutenant Wright. I got up an entertainment song and helped along. The boys enjoyed it too. A dinner of roast pork and mashed potatoes for the company was thoroughly enjoyed by all, and after that the YMCA gift of 1.5 bars of chocolate, 1 pack of cigarettes, and 1 can of tobacco were given out by Santa, one of the men, and the German children were crazy about him. By the way, they do some tall singing around Christmas, also peeling. Even without flour, they have cake, and some of it is right here on my table. Oh, my candle is getting low. I must hurry. Tell Elsa what a treat it was to read her letter. A finer Christmas gift than any tie I ever received. I am now living with a one-eyed German who talks an arm and a leg off me every time I see him. I am going to poke him in his good eye so he won't see me. Gosh, I've told him 100 times that ich nicht sprechen die Deutsch, but the persistent devil keeps going jabber jabber all the time, and I sit here and say ja and nicht or vice versa until I have told him about 50 lies, and then I say ich nicht verstehe, which means I don't understand, to clear myself. Well, I have a wonderful major, and he informed me that I had made good, that he was going to write me a letter of recommendation, so look out. He is to run for governor of Michigan, awarded the DLC of bravery, and loved by every one of his men. He is fine. His division, the 32nd, is rated among the first 4 in the American Expeditionary Forces, and it did wonderful work at many points. Oh, must say, Guten Nacht, Jack. January 3rd, 1919. Dearest Mother, I really never knew what real happiness was until today, after waiting so long, 2 months, for mail. I received 21 letters last night and 5 tonight, and each one a prize to be sure. Mildred's Christmas box came, and in it, believe me, were the nicest of presents. I expect thine any day, but nothing could have been nicer than the letters. It almost made me break down. Mr. Percy Wilson's letter, and thine, too. It took me all evening until bedtime, 8 o'clock, to read them. And then I had a letter from Corporal Handy's mother, and it is a hard one to answer. I have had several of this kind. I enclose her pitiful letter. Altogether I must have had 8 letters from thee, and believe me, I enjoyed every word. I never felt so near to you all as I did at this time. Mildred wrote a wonderful letter, and Helen, Anna, Rosalind, Mary, Mr. Snowden, Mr. Wilson, and many more. I can't tell thee how much these letters meant to me, as I hadn't heard for 2 months. Well, Mother dear, I was overjoyed to learn the returns from the apples. It was great and so unexpected. I thought not spraying or trimming the orchard that there would be little or no results. But $396 is a big help, and I am sure tickled. Please tell me how the checkbook looks, what I owe, what is coming in, etc. Tonight I am having 3 friends in to sing. Oh, we will enjoy that very much. I am so glad the steers are okay, for they are high, and every pound is 14 cents. This is a poor letter in answer to so many fine ones from thee, but I will try to write tomorrow. With loads of love, I remain thine, Jack. Oh, 2 pictures of thee from Mildred, and I am mighty glad to have them. January 12th, 1919. Dearest Mother, it has now been some time since I have written to thee, and there has been little of unusual interest to send. I am enclosing a clipping that expresses my feelings entirely. There is going to be an unholy mess if we are ordered to Russia, and it isn't a nice rumor to have as a bedfellow. Still, I will go if I have to. That, quote, have to, is a wonderful stimulant in this old game of life, and I am beginning to feel that life is a sort of trial or something. I need human sympathy. Someone who understands and appreciates what it means to have to fight one's battles alone and to stand on one's own feet squarely and without any help at all. It's trying and hard, and I am homesick tonight, not because I am here, but because I don't see myself getting home for at least 4 months, and maybe not then. And it's all the fault of that old nut of a colonel in 313th that transferred me. He didn't know me from the side of shoe leather, and if he had known I had served with them all through, it would have been much different. Don't mind this letter, but did I feel blue tonight, and it's no use camouflaging. This is without a doubt the most dreary place in the world today. Drill all day today, tomorrow a maneuver, breakfast 5:30 a.m. Well, better times will come, I expect, today. I may wear the 6-month service stripe that everyone so proudly displays. It's a gold V on the left sleeve. Wounds go on the right. Give my regards to Robert and Granville and Clarence. I would like to know just how the horses are, the colts, whether the barracks has fallen down yet, how much hay there will be, to see if Robert is plowing for corn, or whether the cows are doing well. How many are you milking, and lots more. Hoping thee won't feel as bad after reading this as I do having written it. I remain thine, Jack. January 20th, 1919. Auerbach, Germany. Dearest Aunt Eliza, I hope thee is feeling as fine as I am at this present date. I am homesick. Not in a babyish way, but in a way that makes a man long for the comfort, peace, and quiet of home. I don't go shy at mealtime or get down in the mouth or tell anybody about it, but deep down in my heart I feel that the old geezer who wrote Home Sweet Home was something more than a sentimental old fool at that. Living as I have since the 10th of December, 1918 among the Germans, I have come to know them not as the man who flung babies about with bayonet or manned machine guns that sprayed sudden death while he himself had his arms up crying for mercy, or the man who killed women and children without pity, but as the women who stayed at home and lost husband and son, who mentions it tearlessly yet tragically, who say, Mine now in Himmel. I see the Germans as a race with women who forgive and give more, who have taken all the work of inside and outside on their own shoulders. And although a community baker comes and makes 21 loaves of bread for their monthly stay, as they are doing the man's work, still, all the many duties of house as well as barn are theirs. It's hard to feel any way but sympathetic. And I do. The weather here is surprisingly warm, really not cold at all and no snow yet. I expected a very hard winter, but Gulf Streams are such queer birds that accounts for it. There is apparently a great difference in the two races, French and German, and if each would adopt some of the other's good points, there would be a mutual gain. France, with her more picturesque nature, has become a little feminine, while Germany, with her industrial brutality, has become a harsh, guttural-voiced nation, and with an underlying current of brutality that I don't care for. If you should fly by airplane, or walk as I did from France to Germany, if someone hadn't told you, you wouldn't know that you had gone from one nation to another. Their towns are so much alike, and people too. Yet, of course, they knows this country very well. The loss of my two friends, Donald Kirk and Mark Wash, has been largely responsible for my attack of homesickness. These two men were loyal friends of mine, for I know on many occasions that they stood up for me, and such friends are hard to replace. I feel that if these men were taken, others equally as dear to me may be taken, and this thought makes me impatient to get home. It is my desire to get back and farm. I have made good on this Army game and baseball. Now, if I can be a good farmer, my next step after will be a good husband, then a good father, and your mission on earth has been fulfilled. I can see where the German plan had worked its way until they had wonderful systems. In each town there is a town crier who gives his announcements in no uncertain manner and in their peculiar guttural tone. The people all come out to hear what he has to say, and everything he has told them to do has been done. There is nothing to this town except 59 houses, no stores or anything. The people are all farmers, and although living right together has its natural drawbacks, still I believe on the whole they are much happier. The church means lots to these people here, and none of them wear hats. The one American worker I have seen in 6 months was here last Sunday, and the lady was a creature of immense interest to the townsfolk. Her hat wasn't large, but gee, how they laughed at her! She wasn't real handsome. Her name was weird, and she spoke to the men. Hoping that thee is feeling much better, I remain as ever thine. February 4th, 1919. Dearest Mother, it's been some time since I wrote to thee. It must have been a week. I generally write more than that. Eis est nicht wahr, ja? Well, now I am Big Bird, being Divisional Athletic Officer. This will take me away from Aubach and take me to Ringsdorf. I have 40,000 athletes to direct. Rather a large order. And when Colonel Bick's Chief of Staff said, "Lieutenant, can you make good?" I told him plainly that a man did not always know whether he could make good or not, but I was certain I could. He said, "Then you are Division Athletic Officer." I feel better about the fact that I was transferred from the 313th. When a day or two ago, I received a note from Major Elliott telling me that I had made good in the 313th, but that they were required to select good men for the troops of occupation. I feel much better about it all the way around. He said that Colonel Sweeney had asked for us to be kept in the 313th. That is Billy Walters, Royal Johnson, Mike Walsh, and I. When we graduated from Camp Meade, he said that he was pleased with our work. The Major said some more nice things, and so I'm keeping his letter. I have never received thy Christmas box. A great many were lost, and stolen, I'm sorry to say. We hear that in 4 to 5 weeks we will be on the water, but I don't know. There's a rumor afloat that we go by way of Rotterdam out the Rhine. I don't expect a leave of any kind, and really it's sort of a disappointment to me to not to get to Paris. I may yet, who knows. I heard from John Bancroft and Bert Adams. They both seem to be okay. My luck is good having gotten with the 32nd Division, one of the very best, and we are to get home soon. My baseball reputation has given me a wonderful start here. Strange what that does for a man. Everyone gives me the glad hand. Otherwise, a blank stare. Here, loves in beaucoup. Thine, Jack. April 6, 1919. Dearest Mother, I am due to sail about the 25th of April, and so I hope by the time thee gets this, I will be on the sea. One never knows in the Army whether you will do what you expect to do or not, so I won't say for sure until we actually start. Yesterday I pitched a game for the 2nd Battalion and beat the 1st Battalion 10-6. It was great to play again, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I really hadn't played baseball in nearly a year, and yet was able to pitch a very good game without much work. This morning we had a regimental review, and we enjoyed several good speeches by our commanders. I am hoping to get some pictures of this country for thee, but it's not easy. April 13th, 1919. Dearest Mother, as near as I know today, we leave here about April 22nd, and then after 2 days on rail, hit Brest about the 25th, and we should leave there that day. If all goes well, I hope to be in New York about the 1st or 2nd of May, and then shortly I will be home. It can't be true. Well, the boys just took Mess Sergeant Gibney down and threw him in the creek. Sergeant forgot to make them any sandwiches to take to the parade today. He's feeling poor and needs it. I enclosed a little flower that blooms here now, and trust it looks or smells like it does at present. It was a great temptation to return to the 29th Division, but pride and homesickness held me to my purpose, and that is, follow your destiny. Don't force it. Much love to thee. I am thine lovingly, Jack. Urbach, April 18th, 1919. Dearest Mother, we leave here on 21st, and that puts us in Brest about the 23rd. We should leave Brest about the 24th, and we'll probably hit the States around May 1st to the 5th. That's as near as I can tell. I will be sent to Camp Meade, and will take some 20-odd men with me. It will be only a matter of hours from Meade home, and then I'll be free again. Oh boy, if anyone should drive up, I sure be happy too. When I think of home, I invariably see thee with a smile and arms outstretched as divining. That's the attitude I know thee best in, and secret. Mother, were it not for thee, home wouldn't be home, and I doubt if I would stay in Sandy at all. Thee is my anchor, and I trust I may always look to thee for the light. I am thine, Jack. In May of 1919, Jack Bentley returned to his beloved family in Sandy Spring to work the farm and restart his professional baseball career. In 1921, Jack married Mary Adams, and they had a son, Robert Hamlin Adams Bentley, Jack's only child. The marriage didn't last long. His son, following in his father's footsteps, joined the army to serve his country in World War II. He was killed on Iwo Jima. After returning from the war, Jack had a very successful baseball career, often being compared to the renowned Babe Ruth. The pinnacle of his baseball career came when he pitched for the New York Giants in the notorious 1924 World Series. Jack went up against his childhood idol, Washington Senators pitcher Walter Johnson, and lost in the 12th inning of Game 7 when an easy final out ground ball hit a pebble, eluding the infielder and allowing the winning run of a long and hard-fought series. Jack married his second wife, Helen Murray, on September 25, 1928. They met in New York when Jack was playing for the Giants and Helen was studying dance. After retiring from baseball, Jack and Helen settled back into, quote, old Sandy, and enjoyed many of the things he yearned for while serving in World War I. Jack Bentley died on October 24th, 1969, and he was laid to rest in the serene Sandy Spring Meeting Cemetery along with many of his Quaker ancestors. In a 1962 interview, Bentley recalled, "After returning, baseball players became ordinary human beings. I was able to compete more realistically. We went to the Argonne and took an awful shellacking. We were the 313th Infantry, boys from Baltimore and the Eastern Shore. Of 3,600 active men in our regiment, 1,200 were killed or wounded. A terrible lot of casualties. In the first 4 days, we lost nearly half of our officers. We had over 80 officers, and then we had only 45. When it was over, we had only 4 officers left in our battalion. I was knocked unconscious twice from shell fire, and it was no fun. But it was one way to find out how it was to get killed. I can assure you that if you get it quick like that, it is easy." For Bentley, the 19 months served in the Army were an experience that, quote, forever changed my viewpoint. The heroics of the battlefield topped anything anybody could do on a baseball field.